All right, you said you have photogenic memory, so that last take that I did, can you repeat it? You could do the intro for me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast Container. We are sponsored. Thank you, sponsor Port Pro Logistics,
Nah, you
for
fucked up already.
making this
It's not logistics.
possible.
It's not logistics.
Port Pro, blah blah blah. Port Pro, what?
Cut.
Okay, you start.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Containeroz podcast. The podcast is sponsored by Port Pro, the leading operating system for drayage carriers. Schedule a demo today at
www.portpro.com.
.io.
www.
So, in the studio today, we got Clare Bachman with CALSTART. So, what is that all about? CALSTART and Clare, what's going on?
Hi, everyone. So I work for an organization that develops and implements market mechanisms that facilitate the development and implementation of incentive and funding programs directly related to the purchase and sale of vehicles. And additionally, we also work on the charging infrastructure side now. And my work at CalStart is more specifically focused on drayage operations. And what I do is basically my day-to-day activities. I engage with a lot of fleets, primarily small fleets, independent owner-operators, and I help to identify the barriers that they may have, preventing them from maybe transitioning like their operations to zero emission. There's a lot.
But you're not here like selling something, because people in this field, we get very defensive when we feel like, for some reason, pushing that electric truck on us. I think maybe it's because of the history, like what most of us have been through, like when the clean truck program came into place and all that stuff. A lot of people, like, it was a drastic change. They went from having trucks that they had paid off already, and they were already depending on that. You know, then there's this change, like you gotta hop onto this truck. So some might be defensive and feel that it's happening all over again. So I just have to mention that, because I think that's the reality out there. Like, we're not doing that again.
No, I totally understand where you're coming from, and my job isn't to sell anything. It's just to make more effective and accessible incentive programs and increase the demographic of fleets that are able to afford zero emission technology. It's tricky, but we've come a long way technology wise from 8 years ago, when a lot of fleets were convinced to invest in natural gas trucks, and I think there was too much of a push on smaller fleets to make that transition before the technology was really
There.
Yeah, but I think now the clean transportation market has evolved so much, and now is a good time from a funding standpoint to get into electric trucks.
So it sounds like you're here to share some information and knowledge about what's taking place with or without our consent. So this is the stuff that's happening. And now that if we know about it, we can be prepared and act accordingly. And this sounds very nice. So, like, why all of a sudden does someone want to help us? It feels like that. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I'm not alone in wanting to help small fleets, people with less capital, independent owner operators. I will agree with you that there aren't enough people in this industry who have the best interests at heart. There's a lot of money to be made in an emerging economy like this one.
Yeah.
From a trucker perspective, I think it's very, I guess, worth it to get more involved in these conversations, to engage with the policymakers, because there's a real information gap that I see in my work. The people who need these resources and information the most, the funding, the even the educational aspect behind fleet electrification, it's not trickling down to the truckers. And I don't know how to fix that, but I think there's something to be said in the value of just kind of coming together on this. We need more people to be giving the fleet perspective, and maybe even actual fleets, you know?
Right.
Yeah, so I can try to do my best, but really need more truckers giving their opinion on these things, because it's invaluable to our work. So
At the end, like, but overall, like, what's in it for CalSTART if everyone says, oh, thanks for letting us know about this. You did a great job in not persuading, but maybe informing. And if your job was done, what metrics do you go by to know your job was done at CalSTART? Like, what's the goal?
I don't know what metrics go along in the evaluation of my performance as an employee. I think a lot of it is like, okay, in 1 year, my supervisor will probably ask me, how many small fleets, how many owner-operators were you able to talk to? Were you able to develop the framework for more effective drayage incentive applications? Hopefully I can say yes. Will they say, have you successfully developed kind of a fleet technical support system that provides non-financial assistance to fleets who need it? So that's kind of like my 3 big things that would help measure my performance. Hope that helps.
It seems we're moving that way regardless, like whether we like it or not. So like at this point we don't have a choice, right? What do you think? We have a choice still, or I mean,
I think you always have a choice, but why would you feel like you don't have a choice in what kind of technology you pursue?
I feel we don't have a choice because it feels like this just came and it's moving with or without our approval, or maybe we feel we're not being taken into consideration of like what we go through to like things are just put into effect and adapt, comply, do it, and it's cool and all. But I just want to know, where do you think, what did we miss along the way? Because to me it feels like it happened really fast, and now this electric truck thing is coming full force. And where did we go wrong, do you think, as a trucking community in the ports?
I think that one big mistake by some of the larger automotive manufacturers and policymakers is that these programs initially were not designed for who's just now figuring out like the regulations that are incoming, the everything. Originally, these incentive programs were only accessible by like Penske, Amazon, very large companies, very large fleets. And now that this clean transportation market is a lot of Class 8 trucks, for example, like battery electric Class 8 trucks, they're only just now available this year. So you didn't miss much. While a lot of truckers have been busy like working, you know, keeping our country running, a lot of engineers at the same time in the clean tech space have been developing and improving, testing fleet technology that will allow us to operate trucks that emit like no emissions. So that's cool.
As far as like putting this into place though, like this is what we're going to demand, this is what we need you guys to comply with. Could we have been involved? Was there any meetings that we missed? Was that out in the public? Or do you think we just ignored it? That's what I was asking. Like, how did we get here? Like,
How did you get here? So the way that these policies are made, it has to do with public hearings, public working groups, all of that. But on the policy side, so many people working in this arena don't know how to reach independent owner operators, truckers. And I'll admit, because I got into this field 2 years ago, and when I started, my main research was like, how do I reach truckers? Because y'all have a very close-knit community. Where do you get information? From other truckers, right? Either in person or, in this case, a trucker-centric podcast. Being an outsider, it's hard to know where to go to even just deliver information on incentives, on fleet electrification, on new technology. And I think from a money-making standpoint, maybe they don't have as much incentive to reach people with less capital, but that doesn't make it right to do so. I really do think there's power in community organizing, and how come that can't take place in the trucking world, you know? Y'all have a right to participate in the policies that directly concern you, just like you have the right to, receive the same amount of financial support that the larger players in the drayage industry receive. So
hopefully that's what we're going to learn today, right? How we can access that and tap in on those incentives. You keep saying incentives, so like, can you elaborate on incentives and what is that, and you know what I mean?
Sure. So if you are a fleet in California, then whether you know it or not, there's money available that will cut costs on your transition to cleaner technology. For example, the HVIP program, the Hybrid and Zero Emission Vehicle Incentive Program, HVIP. What? Millions of dollars each year go into this program to provide incentives, which are cash rebates that significantly cut the costs on electric trucks, for example.
All this sounds like a foreign language to me. I'm like trying to keep up, you know?
Podemos hablar en español sobre eso si quieres.
No literalmente, pero like just the way it's all worded.
I know it's a lot. It's very hard to navigate. But a good place to start is, do some research. I can send you some links to share with your audience after this, where they can start their journey of understanding what the fuck's happening.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, there's a lot of information out there, but it's like, where do we dig? Like, which is the right information? There's a lot of more like opinion-based information than there is like a specific order of, I don't want to say tasks, but how do we do it to get access to this truck that seems very expensive? What everyone thinks is like expensive and out of reach, right? So, and then other things will come into play. Like now we know what we know. We know the diesel and all that, like how much it costs, what our profit margin will be based on us knowing those operating costs. And with electric, we wouldn't know how to, it might have an impact on the way we bill or the, stuff like that. Like maybe the customer will be like, oh, now you're electric, so now you got to charge me less. Or like, how will we know if it's a good deal or not? Because we're used to a whole different way, and now.
Yeah. So I think a good place to start is getting an electric truck or a hydrogen fuel cell truck and just seeing the operational differences.
I want to know that before I get it. Not. I don't want to learn it when we're already on it.
Yeah,
Kinda
but
risky.
I mean, before you buy anything, you would take a test drive, right? So at least for me, I'm someone who learns with my hands, right? So I think my understanding of battery electric trucks was here, and then once I actually drove one, all of a sudden I was like, wow, you know. And also I've never driven a truck, but I was able to drive a battery electric Class 8 truck, and that's pretty cool because it's automatic, super safe, it's comfy. It's like having like a gamer chair. You don't need like cushions or anything. It's very easy to operate and user friendly. And while the cost currently for electric trucks is more, what these incentive mechanisms do is by cutting the cost and putting these new trucks into the market slowly, but within a few years, like Class 8 zero emission trucks, whether hydrogen fuel cell, battery electric, they'll become comparable in cost to diesel trucks. And at the same time, there will be, as time progresses, there will be more used zero emission trucks out in the market. So it just takes time
To build up that whole.
Yeah. Yep.
You think it'll have a positive impact on wages?
I think so for sure. Because companies that are required to report their emissions, that take on subcontractors for drivers, they'll be kind of more inclined to work with an owner operator who will help decrease the amount of emissions they report annually. So I think it's almost advantageous for an owner operator to drive electric if their routes permit, because that makes them an asset in a way. It gives them a competitive edge because they're not polluting. They're more, in some cases, battery electric trucks can be more efficient too than existing diesel models. I know it's weird.
But the competitive edge will only take place during the whole development, right? While everyone adapts to it. Once everyone's on the same page, then there's no more competitive edge.
I think this competitive edge will exist for as long as it needs to, right? Until the cost of diesel and the cost of electric is just like, electric eventually will be cheaper. That's the way the market is moving. Right now it's very frustrating because it seems like truck drivers don't have enough time to properly assess whether, one, is this a good idea? Two, how can I afford this? Three, where will my charging infrastructure go? Everything seems like it's happening fast, but...
Yeah, we just saw this news. I won't disclose the network or whatever, but the possibility of blackouts, I believe, or power outages. And now that's going to be something to worry about in the future, or in the early stages only, or in...
No, I think with proper planning and coordination with utilities, blackouts won't be an issue, as basically the energy supply throughout the United States is slowly shifting from gas to renewable to electric. And yeah, there's a lot of research and planning that needs to happen on the charging infrastructure side.
Can that affect the people that live within people that are not even in the field, like the neighbors, right? Is their electric bill going to be impacted because everyone else, went electric too?
No.
No.
That won't happen. And there are cases where fleets who when they initially purchase charging infrastructure, they can set kind of flat rates with their utility. And also, like I said earlier, I'll just remind you, but there's also funding to cut costs on infrastructure, like the initial construction and purchase of infrastructure. There's money to take away the costs for that.
So like these people that are protesting from time to time about all these trucks driving by their homes, they won't be affected when everyone goes electric. Their electric bill won't go up.
No,
it may not.
No. Their electric bill won't come up, and also a lot of the homes around the ports actually run on natural gas for their energy through the utilities. But also, if anything, they'd be positively affected. And the reason for that, and I know this is something I hate talking about, but there's a real health impact of trucks, not only for the community, but for the drivers. So those protesters, once the trucks are electric, hydrogen, or whatever, they're just going to be at home. They won't have anything to protest because noise pollution will significantly decrease from trucks. Additionally, the levels of PM 2.5 and NOx pollution levels that disproportionately impacts lower income communities of color in California, those air quality levels will improve. How long will it take for us to get there? I don't know, but not too long, hopefully.
Yeah. It just feels frustrating sometimes because you feel like you got a clean truck and then it was never enough. So this whole time, you're basically telling us that our trucks weren't clean enough, or they weren't clean. Like when we gave up what we had to transition, and now this. Once, let's say everyone's on electric, what now? What will you want from us? What's the next thing? Is this the end? Now we're good? Like we'll be left unbothered as far as like having to, adapt to drastic changes? Like,
I think that the trucking industry is constantly changing. I mean, if you look at it 50 years ago, I mean, I'm 23, so I can't speak on firsthand experience, but talking to people who've been in the industry for a while, at least, they've seen everything change. I can't predict what it will be like in 30 years, but I can maybe say it will be cleaner, safer, and I don't think that's a bad thing. No. I think the only real issue is
the transition
and the information gap between like private and public stakeholders in fleet electrification, and the drivers and the owner operators who don't always know what's happening, and I don't like that.
And for the record, like me personally, I'm not against that. I'm against the way it's executed. Like, I don't want us to feel like it's shoved down our throat. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want it to feel like the first program all over again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's kind of like, it's kind of like trauma if you think about it. Like, you've seen something like this play out unsuccessfully. And now you're scared, like, great, what's going to happen now? Yeah. And I totally get that. I mean, shoot, I can't say that natural gas trucks at that time were a good investment, or, if they are now, but with electric trucks, at least purchasing one early, I feel like it's pretty guaranteeable that the value will hold for like 5 to 10 years. And then given the like manufacturing time, not only of new diesel trucks, but also electric, hydrogen fuel cell, like having a used zero emission truck in 5 years, I see as pretty valuable because people will pay more for the quick turnaround,
So even if everyone, last I checked a couple years ago, it was like about 20,000 trucks for owner operators. I may be wrong, but let's just say 20,000 trucks.
More than that. Are you talking about that operate
in dray and the ports?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I think for the whole state, like 75,000.
Mm-hmm.
But so let's say whoever these people, the government, the EPA, California Air Resource Board, they get their way. Everyone says we're up for it. Let's just say, what's up? What happens then? Like,
yeah,
obviously the infrastructure is not there, so.
No, but it's getting there. It takes time. I mean, we're going to see the first public truck charging stations open this year. Already, most of the charging operations are privatized, but I'll say, so these incentive programs, the two main ones being HVIP for truck vouchers and Energize for charging infrastructure. Right now, fleets with, that are pretty substantial in size, they can still participate, right? But as time increases, as we continue further in our pathway to sustainable, whatever, the fleet cap and the revenue cap of who can participate in these incentive programs will go down. And I mean, I'm speaking about these things like they aren't set in stone, but they are set in stone. Like, that's happening. So in a few years, only small fleets and independent owner operators will be able to apply for incentives for trucks. And I think that's maybe more equitable. Kind of this is a personal opinion, of course, but I think that's who should be benefiting from this money, right?
That we don't know exists. Right now, we just think that you got to buy it, and how do we do it? So,
I mean, you tell me, how can someone like myself get this information out to the people who really need to hear it? I mean, that's something I would like to work on, and just be kind of difficult,
Maybe you start by knocking down the myths, like, let's target the myths.
I think that's a good idea. I'm writing it down.
So, this is our response to that. This is how we can, put you at ease with this concern you have.
No, it's not. It's not something that I need to, feel better about. I just, in my role.
No, I mean for us, embracing it.
Oh,
yeah. Because it's a myth. What's a myth? Right now, can you think of a myth about anything?
Yeah.
A barrier for you?
One of my faves is the myth that soon, so the next step after battery electric trucks is autonomous trucks. And we're going to be replaced by robots. And we won't need truckers anymore. That's not going to happen anytime soon. The only thing that's happening is these trucks are becoming safer to operate. And another perk that I foresee is, for new drivers, for people who are thinking about getting into truck driving, maybe there's more of an appeal now because there's less of a learning curve to go drive a very safe and easy to operate automatic Class 8 truck. I think that's really cool. Like, maybe through this transition, if the right people become involved in it, like yourself, we'll be able to address the truck driver shortage and get more people in the industry, because they'll come in and be like, ooh, wow, I get to drive this really awesome new technology. Like, I'm a part of, sustainable movement. I just think that aspect of fleet electrification is a big one, because obviously we want drivers to be happy, and maybe this will help. I don't know.
The driver shortage thing, you think, is that your opinion, or
I have
that there is a shortage, or there's just we could reword it with a retention problem. Like, why are they not staying?
I mean, I'd be interested to know, because I see a lot of kind of a mesh of information regarding the legitimacy of a driver shortage. Like, is that happening, or are drivers leaving because they aren't being treated fairly? You know, regarding wages, wage theft, proper health insurance, all those things.
Wage theft. Huh.
You like that?
You're tapping into something there. I mean, there's been attempts to start companies with this whole inspired from wage theft scenarios, but they didn't thrive very long. So, but that's another topic. But
okay, we can talk about that another time.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me though.
Sorry.
All these electric trucks are automatic, all of them?
I believe so, but you know what? There's actually, I mean, there's less popular technology out there that can basically retrofit diesel trucks and turn them into electric or...
I like that.
So...
Tell me more.
No, not all are automatic. There are probably some manual out there that are older models that have been converted to renewable fuel sources or alternative fuel sources. I don't know.
I'm writing that one down. Retrofit. I need to ask you more about that.
Yeah.
But I feel I'm all over the place with these. Where were we right now? Remember?
So you just asked me if all new electric trucks are automatic, and from my knowledge of the 8 or 10 Class 8 trucks, tractor trailers on the market, they're all automatic. And I mean, I've driven a couple of them, and like, so easy. It feels like driving a very safe and hefty golf cart. Golf cart. Which is cool. I mean, and they go really fast. And they're quiet. They're like little ninjas. Clean ninjas.
Logistic ninjas.
Yeah.
Is Dre the only sector moving towards decarbonization? No,
actually, drayage, due to the kind of pace at which the technology for clean transportation has developed, it's one of the last sectors to begin the path towards decarbonization. It started with the small stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So rail yard equipment, that was the first to electrify. And then next, I mean, you've seen Teslas, all that, light-duty vehicles, easy. Hybrids, easy. Then you move to...
the government vehicles.
The government vehicles, like, that sounds sketchy. What are you talking about? Like, buses, transit?
Yeah.
Okay. So after that, delivery vans, because those are kind of easy to electrify because they have very short hauls. A lot of delivery companies, they have like home bases of which they own. So throw some charger infrastructure in there, not a problem. School buses, that as well. There's a lot of funding to electrify or decarbonize school buses. That's an easy one. So like there are a lot of sectors of transportation that kind of took the priority first because they were easier to target, cheaper, right? Mm-hmm. So now after all that, I mean, we've gotten to a point where there are enough class 6 through 8 trucks on the market for the drayage economy, like for it to actually be tangible to purchase electric trucks.
What if people went into like a CNG operation and they already invested in all that and their whole operation is revolving around that, and now they're going to have to transition from that to EV? Or That would be interesting and frustrating at the same time. They thought they did what they had to do, and now it's like, a little more, please. A little more.
Isn't that life? You always have to do a little more. But in the case of exchanging natural gas trucks for battery electric or hydrogen fuel cell, I still see value in that, because California, kind of the new technology starts here. So you take that natural gas truck just like you would a 2013 diesel, right? And you sell it in the states where there's still maybe a use case or more value for it, and you're still making money. But it is annoying to even have to do that. But I mean, maybe there are advantages also of driving battery electric over natural gas. I mean, depends on the use case. Like,
yeah, imagine you have all these CNG trucks, and then not imagine, because this is gonna happen. Like, you have the CNG trucks, and there's like, let me get rid of them. There's no market for them out of California, if you think about it.
There is,
unless they can. Oh, there is. They just retrofit them and do something with them, or what?
So think about like Texas, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, there's natural gas fueling infrastructure in a lot of states. But, you know, am I an expert on that? No, but I am aware that there's a need and a demand for natural gas trucks elsewhere. And maybe even here, like, there's still incentive funding that will cut costs on natural gas trucks. That's through the Carl Moyer program through South Coast AQMD. It's just not something I personally work in, or maybe, you know, it's not my cup of tea. I see more value and kind of retention of value also in battery electric trucks, like the E-Cascadia Freightliner. Bro, beautiful.
It does look pretty nice, I'll say that.
Well, I'll take you on a ride in one if you want. June 8th.
I'll be there.
Okay.
It better be fast, like you say.
I mean, I personally was too scared to go like over 10 miles per hour, but
we're in a little gamer chair.
Yeah, I'll have to show you. Yeah, well, so my organization, in partnership with CARB, on June 8th in Fontana at the Fontana Speedway, NASCAR, whatever, we're going to be hosting a free ride and drive for fleets. You can come out there.
I can't hear you.
You can come out there. And
your battery's running low.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm both this microphone probably and my will to live. But yeah, June 8th, Fontana, come out to.
Come on, let's do it now. Come now, or regret it forever.
Sponsored by Port Pro, but not really.
No, not sponsored by Port Pro.
Yeah, you can't lie about those things.
Yeah.
Or can you?
Now you're just fucking with me. You want me to spend some extra time editing.
But yeah, Fontana, June 8th, there's going to be a ride and drive event. You can test drive Class 6 through 8 trucks, whatever you want. No cost for you. You can do it just to get mad at trucks. Like, these suck. I mean, it's better for you to at least go there and, like, test drive a truck and know, oh, do I like this? Do I hate this? I think that's important, to at least try something out.
I mean, it was alright, but my friends might judge me. Huh?
You know,
because it's automatic.
A wise dealer once told me, try everything once.
Someone's getting fired, but it was nice knowing you.
All right, let's cut that part. Let me retry. Ready? A wise guy once told me, there's nothing you can't try for the first time. I mean, everything I'll try once, you know? Let's cut that too. Test it out, you know? How bad could it be?
Test it out. How bad can it be? The ZEV. I don't know, that sounds fucking salesy as fuck. I don't know nothing about these trucks. But just want to hear her out. Yeah. pilot program. What the F is that?
Yeah, so basically the state is implementing currently an innovative small e-fleets pilot program, and there is 23.5 million in incentives that can go towards
23.5 million.
Yeah, there's 23.5 million in incentives that can cover some of the costs for both trucks and also charging infrastructure. And a cool thing about this program, well, let me start off by saying that it's only available for fleets with 20 or less trucks. I'm so discreet. 20 or less trucks, okay, and a revenue cap of 15 million. So it's not available for everyone. Amazon, sorry, you're out on this program.
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, move over. But it's kind of, I really like it because for the first time, the state is seeing like what steps we need to do to cover some of the costs for innovative financing models like vehicle as a service, for example. We're going to be providing some monies for that and just seeing like how we do that. Yeah, basically it's kind of like on a case-by-case basis. Like we're trying to understand what lengths or what we have to do in order to make it possible for smaller fleets to go electric, and additionally, like even just participate in these incentive programs.
Yeah, because if you're like an owner-operator, you just go park your truck somewhere, anywhere. You don't even have to park it at the company that you haul for, like, that you're leased on to or whatever. So that's gonna play a big role and a big. There's gonna be a big change with that. Like, you can't just keep parking on the street with an electric truck. Ideally, you want to be at a yard where they already have the infrastructure, and the owner of that property doesn't have a problem with them adding all these charging stations and shit. So, fuck, I lost my train of thought. But
yeah, so
back to infrastructure. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so those are really good points. Like for a lot of owner operators, I think it takes a little more research and support on the policymaker and also dealers, people like CALSTART, CARB, the people who are funding this transition. In cases with owner operators who don't understand how they could possibly charge their operations, more assistance is needed. And one thing that really helps me in my work is talking to owner operators in smaller fleets and working with them to document and understand what lengths we have to go to in order to guarantee that their operations are well managed, and that they can charge their trucks and they're somewhere reliable that they can do so. So yeah, that's charging infrastructure. It's interesting. I almost feel like policy-wise and technology-wise, we started with the trucks. We being a society...
Backwards? You think it's backwards?
I feel like there was so much, so many resources and planning and funding into the development of the trucks. And maybe the charging infrastructure for trucks wasn't an afterthought, but to me, sometimes it feels like it was.
Is that one of the biggest barriers? Like, well, let me start over. What's one of the biggest barriers with this whole electric truck thing? Well,
I can think of a few. One being cost. Can be kind of expensive without the help of incentives. Another big barrier is the amount of time and on the operational side for fleets or whoever in the management of like, okay, this electric truck It has a weight capacity of 44,000 or so. How is that impacted by the regular load that truck drivers carry in their operations? And then just planning like, okay, so if my load is like 40,000 pounds, how far can you go? I mean, these are all things you can calculate before you even purchase a truck.
You're tapping into the formula thing right now, aren't you?
The formula. Yeah. So one thing you have to consider, like, okay, I'm going to get a Class A electric truck. How many miles are you really getting? That's impacted so heavily by the actual weight of the containers and the loads that you carry.
The power it's going to need to use, obviously.
Yeah, and how does the weight that a truck carries, like, how does that affect the mileage? That's a huge...
And is it a steady or not? So it's like... If you, for example, some carriers do a lot of exports with recycled material, and they're usually pretty freaking heavy. So they might have a shorter lifespan on that battery, on that charge. That could impact the way they build.
Oh my goodness! But yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert, but I think ultimately there will be value added, you know, in transitioning to electric, as far as like how much money you get per trip.
You think it'll change the way that companies build the services?
I hope so. I mean, I only see a positive change happening, and if like enough truckers and owner operators really get involved in the development and implementation processes for these programs. So
fuel goes up and down all the time. So what would be the case here? Is that a risk here with the cost of electric to charge them going up and down? I
think while the cost of fuel is going up, electricity in comparison is going down, as the energy storage infrastructure in California and across the U.S. is increasing. Additionally, you know, California, everywhere, they're increasing their renewable energy portfolio, and that is also increasing the cost of electricity. But it is definitely something to consider, and one of those cost-benefit analysis that you'd be able to have either completed for you or
for a fee, or would that come with the whole purchase?
A lot of times dealers
I've seen them on the window, those.
Yeah,
right?
The dealers through which you purchase electric trucks, they'll do those calculations for you. If not, your utility can help. Charging infrastructure providers as well. There's a lot of people who have calculations for this. I can try to send you one, just a standard free tool online.
I think a lot of people haven't given it that much thought to all the different scenarios that will arise from it, and that's going to be interesting. As long as we don't feel like we're just running that truck, and we're obviously we're going to get paid, but as long as it's not like what comes in goes out and there's no profit, but there's definitely movement, you know.
There's always going to be profit in trucking. I hope so. I mean,
if we get those numbers right, I'm pretty sure, yeah. But there's always someone tapping into that.
One thing I'm scared of, though, is that, like, in this movement towards cleaner trucks, cleaner technology, like, who gets left out in the process? Who gets left behind? What happens to them in their, like, just source of income, right? That's scary.
Like what industries will be impacted by this movement?
Yeah, I guess it's hard to foresee how the industry will change. But I'm an optimist, so
as far as labor
I try
goes,
to focus on the good things. I think labor-wise, the increase in availability and affordability of battery electric trucks is going to attract more people to the trucking industry. And that sounds weird, but like driving them, it's very enjoyable, like easy, simple experience. I mean, I can't predict anything, but are you aware, like, there's like a driving age, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be 21. These trucks now that they're making, they're significantly easier to drive. So perhaps this will facilitate a decrease in the current age requirement and open up the industry to drivers like straight out of high school, you know? That would be good.
What about the local shops, the local mechanic repair shops, you know, the local oil change people, the local, the mobile mechanics? Everyone might have to learn a new trade in the process.
Yeah, and here locally, like at Harbor City College, at LATCC, you know what I'm talking about? LA Trade Technical Community College. A lot of trade schools in California offer courses so that technicians and electricians, mechanics can skill up and learn whatever skills they need to be able to comfortably operate and maintain these vehicles. But also from a maintenance standpoint, I mean, the maintenance costs will go down. There will be less of a need for maintenance, because think of all the problems for diesel trucks that arise out of engine errors, you know? That's gone. So that it really, the need for maintenance will decrease if a fleet converts to battery electric. But already the current technicians, electricians, I mean, a lot of things that they do are applicable to maintaining a battery electric truck. And additionally to this funding that's available for truck vouchers, charging infrastructure incentives, and another funding lane, there's also money for zero-emission workforce development programs to kind of help guarantee that there's a workforce to support this new technology. So I know a lot of people are like, oh, jobs, new technology, blah. But also one advantage of this movement towards zero-emission transportation is new jobs, new opportunities. And also, like, one thing I hate is that a lot of communities in Southern California, like, are reliant on the fossil fuel industry. And these jobs, like, can be really taxing on the physical health of an individual. And perhaps in this movement towards zero-emission transportation, there will be better job opportunities for these people who were previously dependent on, like, you know, refinery jobs, things like that. So it's new opportunities for people who historically have been underserved, which I'm here for. So.
You see any connection with the type of, how do I put this? The communities that emerge coincidentally around those areas?
Yeah, that's called environmental racism.
What?
But you go outside in San Pedro, in Wilmington, West Carson, Long Beach, the communities around the ports, I mean, you'll see it firsthand. These communities face higher rates of asthma, higher cancer risk, all these things. I mean, there's research that shows these trends that are inherently linked to air quality. And unfortunately, 40% of emissions in California are related to the transportation sector. And I hate that. And its impact, the people in Santa Monica, a lot of the people in San Pedro and Manhattan Beach, etc., they don't breathe in the same fumes as communities in Wilmington. Because if you think about it, around the ports, there's not only these heavily trafficked freeway corridors, but the ports themselves are huge sources of emissions. And I think it would be really great to kind of say, okay, let's kind of reverse the damage that's been done to these lower income communities of color by cleaning up the industries that are literally killing them, you know? And I think when you see those protesters...
That's what I was going to bring up. You read my mind.
Yeah, I know. I saw it in your eyes. Maybe their anger is misdirected, right? Who they're really mad at is the public officials, the local agencies and stuff who aren't listening It's not the truckers they're mad at.
Yeah, because we're like, what the hell? We already did what we could do. Like, we're over here complying left and right. Like, why are you making our job harder now? Like,
yeah, you can't. I mean, I know it's hard, but try not to take it personal because their anger. A lot of times, protests like that have to exist because they have to kind of. That's the only way, unfortunately, that they're able to relay their message.
Yeah, make noise, awareness.
To the government. Because, I mean, around here, so currently the CD15 representative, Joe Buscaino, he's not listening. I mean, that's why they're mad. They're not mad at the truckers. They're mad at...
I should know more about my local politics, but I don't. So...
I know a lot.
Are they supposed to reach out to people like him and he's supposed to save them, or what? What's the process there? Like,
so basically, I think in a utopia, right, when you elect politicians in a democracy, they have an obligation to represent the needs
of the people.
Does that happen around the ports? Absolutely not. I mean, you have to think there's the people that live here, and then there's the ports that generate billions of income every year. So a lot of times politicians who are elected around South LA, they'll end up kind of taking the backseat when it comes to advocating for policy changes or whatever that
might piss off the wrong people.
Would piss off the wrong people, and they're not gonna do what's best for the community. They're gonna do what's best for their pockets and the pockets of their biggest financial supporters. It's a corrupt world we lived in, so it's unfortunate, but I hope that, you know, eventually those protesters, those people who are angry about truck congestion, they're able to feel better. And, you know, a lot of those issues are also related to how the streets are, how the residential streets and everything around the ports, how those are zoned. So that's the government, too. It's not the truckers.
As far as corruption, I think there's a lot of room for that in anything, especially... I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't give a fuck about the environment, but they care about the money that comes from acting like you give a fuck about the environment. So...
Yeah, and I see that play out kind of in the growth of hydrogen as a fuel source. So I don't want to say too much bad stuff, but basically money-hungry people, while we're moving towards cleaner fuel, zero-emission economy, all that, all those buzzwords, right? The people who have made an income historically off of the existence and the dominance of the fossil fuel industry, they're not ready to lose that money. So what are they going to do? They're going to try to get in on the sustainable transportation game through the guise of renewable natural gas. Renewable natural gas, clean natural gas, it's still a fossil fuel. I mean, the cleaner option, and like, you know, it's going to be battery electric. I mean, hydrogen...
The end game is good for marketing, but the process to get it is not.
Don't believe everything, basically, because I think it takes a trained eye, maybe, to identify, like, the BS versus legitimate sources of information. But a good indicator is, like, okay, who has a financial stake in this information? In my case, literally no one. I'm just doing my job. Like, I'm kind of like a subcontractor for the government. And as far as like a lot of people who work in like the public sector, they're not motivated by money. I notice like in my field of work, a lot of people get into this stuff because they like to work on something that's like mission based, that they believe in, versus for some like private companies, say a natural gas company, they're motivated by profit on the other hand, because that's what keeps them in business. So yeah, that's something you know you got to be cognizant of, but it's hard to tell at times.
Sometimes it appears that they're delusional, because the environmentally friendly people and passionate about that, they got to come to the realization that unfortunately money rules the world. And while that's the case,
Mm-hmm.
If the money is in the power in the hands of the wrong people, then put it this way. I went to one of the meetings a couple years ago. This lady went up there and said that Jeff Bezos should pay for everything because he has a lot of money. And it's like, it's the whole thing. Who would do it? It's a lot of demands, but but I demand this, but it's not coming out of my pocket. Find a way to make it work, but this is what I want. Like, so it's like,
yeah, I mean,
more realistic. What do you think?
So on both sides, on the pro-business side, on the pro-environmental side, I mean, there's always misinformation. There's always people who anger maybe is misdirected, and that's intentional by whoever, right? But that doesn't take away from the legitimacy and the valuable or the viability in some of the new technology for the trucking industry. I mean, environmental motivations aside, driving a battery electric truck is safer. You're saving costs on fuel, on maintenance. I mean, the upfront costs are more, but that's what the incentive programs are here for now, to cut those costs. There's no noise pollution. I mean, if you've ever driven a Tesla, I mean, that's what the trucks are like. They're so quiet. You know, when you're unloading something behind like a warehouse, you're not disturbing anyone. No one even knows you're there. You know, it's just more efficient technology. So yeah, I mean, and also maybe another good thing to talk about is like the improved driver health, you know, because being behind the seat of a diesel truck every day, I mean, some of those fumes, I mean, you can't avoid inhaling them. Mm-hmm. If you're driving a battery electric vehicle, bro, you're fine. Like, you don't have to worry about getting sick from your work. I mean, you can't prevent injuries. Like,
slip and fall, that's on you.
Yeah, but at least you're not breathing toxics.
Yeah. So all this incentive stuff, then how do we get them? Like, what do we got to do to tap in? And someone that has a truck that's going to get rid of it, or what are they going to do? They're going to sell it, use that money as a down payment? What plans do you have? What are the steps for someone that says, fuck it, I guess I have no fucking choice. What do I do?
Yeah, so
is this real?
A good place to start is at www.californiahvip.org. That is hvip.org. There you can browse the catalog of the medium heavy duty trucks currently available for incentive funding. I'll also add that for drayage trucks, there's a start incentive rate of $150,000. And I'll bring attention back to the ISEF set aside that will be available this summer for small fleets who are 20 trucks or less, with a revenue cap of $15 million. So no promises, but basically they'll be able to get even more money than $125,000 per truck, which is exciting. But yeah, start with californiahvip.org. There you can get information on the process to apply or participate in these programs. Additionally, we have a list of an approved dealer catalog, and at each approved dealer we have on our list, a lovely thing is they each have an assigned staff member who's trained to apply to these incentive vouchers, and the fleet itself isn't the one applying for truck vouchers. It's the trained dealer. So that takes some of the
mistakes and
burden.
Any delays.
Exactly.
They know how to fill them out.
Yeah, and someone at Daimler was talking today how currently, if a customer was to place an order for a diesel truck, a new diesel model, it's going to take longer than it would for a new battery electric e-Cascadia to get to their door. So that's kind of a reflection of where the OEMs are headed, you know? So I think it's exciting.
Sort of.
Are you gonna miss diesel trucks once they're a thing of the past?
Well, I mean, I can't deny I love the sound of and that feel.
The torque.
I just don't know. Shit, I gotta adapt, I guess, if that's what this calls for, you know. But
yeah, that's something I look at a lot, is like the cultural attachment that a lot of people in the trucking world like have to diesel trucks, because for so many years, I mean, especially independent owner operators, I feel like their trucks can almost be a reflection of who they are as a person. But can that still not happen with battery electric trucks?
No Jake brakes. It can't. It's not gonna sound the same.
But it's gonna be safer. Isn't that nice? Opens up the industry to more drivers. So, but yeah, that's a good point. We've come a long way.
Yeah, I feel that Are you okay?
Huh?
You good?
Yeah, I just need to take a sip.
I just feel there could be like 1,000 questions for this, but I should have lined them up a little more proper. And I know it's been a long week for you. You've been, what's that event called?
Yeah, so ACT News, which is a clean transportation news service sponsored by GNA. I've been at the ACT Expo, and there were like 8,400 people there. A lot of OEMs, a lot of charging companies, a lot of investors who are all on board and ready to get into clean transportation. I'll add, because I know you're about to ask this, yes, there were also fleets there, small fleets. But one thing I'd like to see in our industry is more events geared solely towards fleets, because they need to hear about this stuff more than the investors at this point.
Right now, you don't think they're catering towards us then? Mostly to... They're
trying. I think it's a new industry for all of us. It's something that everyone is trying to learn how to navigate, not just from the fleet side, but
because it's so taboo. Like, just the way you approach it might you might be wrong from the get-go.
Yeah, and we're all just learning what we're doing, how best to reach fleets. I mean, it's you can't expect people to do things right, for the first time. Things take time to really...
Yeah, just that you guys aren't giving up your trucks. You guys aren't having to start over again. So that's one of the things. But then you are talking about incentives, so that's why we're here. I'm going to bring that up. We're almost out of time, but...
I mean, that's the thing. Like, you're giving up your trucks, but, I mean, in some cases, at least you won't have to give up your truck for a few years if you're not able to at the moment. But, I mean, if you have an old diesel model, you're going to have to buy something new.
And then when we do this, hopefully that's it.
No, I mean, technology, I think, unfortunately, things are always going to be changing. Like, but it's not impossible to participate and benefit from the changes happening.
Yeah, this time hopefully we're more involved and we can benefit from what's out there.
I hope so. And I mean, if anyone's watching this and like has some type of urge to become more involved, hit me up. I can help. I want to get your concerns across to the right people and, assist in doing that however I can.
You sound very excited to do that.
I sound half asleep, but I am excited. My podcast voice, turns out, is very monotone, but I kind of like it.
Okay.
Really? I talk like this.
All right, Claire, thank you so much for being here. We had this one person that, out of all the people that, that probably saw the post, only one person was brave enough to ask a question, you know. But if it had been a video about another trucker fighting another trucker or someone taking a shit in a bucket, everyone would have been there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. One question. I put it in anticipation of today's podcast. I put it out there. I got someone coming on the podcast that can answer a few questions about this stuff, right? What should I ask them?
I'm so excited. What is it?
And I got one question, and it said, do they really think they're helping when they force owner operators to purchase a newer truck after they have already spent years paying one off, just to have to restart paying again, and way more expensive as well, yet the rates don't go up? So,
yeah, I think that this question encapsulates like the problems with the current pushes in the industry perfectly. Like, there's not enough consideration for the cost, the tremendous costs that fall on owner operators. But we're trying to fix that. I mean, the state is, you know, more programs will be available that will at least attempt or try to remove some of these barriers. But yeah, it's really sad. And I've talked to truckers, like small fleets, and usually in older. So sometimes I talk to older owner operators, and I just get so sad because they don't know how to keep up. Like, they're just like, I can't meet regulations. It's getting too expensive. The cost of fuel is too expensive. And it's unfair that so much of these changes at times can negatively impact.
It's just take, like, simple. You can't find a freaking rest area open. Like, it's very rare to find a rest area open the time that you need it for trucks in California. But we pay all this stuff. We pay all this stuff. Road tax, you know, we pay permits. We're taxed up the ass with, you know what I mean? And something as simple as the state looking out for us, where somewhere that we could park safely and get some rest, it's not available to us. I feel we contribute to, we do our part, right? We give back through all these fees and whatnot, but
yeah. So these concerns, I don't think. I mean, I'm not gonna say you haven't been trying to get this across to the policymakers and everything, but don't stop. Like, these concerns that your only question asker and other people have in the industry, like, they need to be conveyed to the right people if we're going to make more effective and equitable policy. So
I never get the memo. How do we get invited to those things? I mean, we could try. Like, look, I could ask you, I want to tap in. Whenever you have an event, I'll go. I want to learn more. I'll relay the message. But this is a perfect example. Yesterday, I tried to. No one was interested. But there will be interested when it starts affecting them. And then it's like we're always late. But then when you have a chance to get your 2 cents, no one participates. It's like, I thought social media would be a good tool to use to relay the message, but I guess it's just for entertainment. Like, just want to see other people fighting. You know, I don't know. That's a real question. Like, how can I see if you think it's hard and maybe you thought, let me go talk to someone that's in trucking and has a podcast catered to the trucking industry. Maybe that'll do it. But I'm telling you that even though I'm involved, I saw no participation. So I guess we're both in for a treat to try to figure this out.
Don't give up.
Never.
Just keep swimming.
Forever.
Just do what you think is right in this situation. Like, if you think the right thing to do as a trucking podcaster is get information about funding opportunities in a fleet's transition to renewable technology, whatever, then do that, because people are going to catch on if you do something that aligns with your values. Like that's where the money is.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the message is going to be there, and whoever takes it, good, right? I mean, that's the
A for effort.
That would be ideal, right?
Yeah. I mean, the people who need to hear this are going to be listening, and you got to start somewhere. You can't expect people to listen overnight. Sometimes these things take time. And I mean, I don't know about you, but personally, I'll keep trying to get this information to truckers, owner operators, small fleets, because it pains me when I acknowledge the information gap. Like, there are resources out there. There are organizations, OEMs, a lot of people who are trying to get the information to the right people, but it's a huge challenge.
It's hard to engage, even like in this conversation, like not personal, like, or disrespect to you at all. I mean, like, just the lingo and trying to keep it going. It's like there's parts where it gets boring. There's parts where I don't know what the fuck you're saying, and there's parts where, like, what do I ask her? Like, it's like so new, you know. And I think a tip would be, like I said earlier, the myth, address the myths.
That's my only note.
And then get a little more involved, you know, like.
Yeah, and that's
get to know us, you know. Come for ride-alongs. Why don't you do ride-alongs with drivers and pick their brain, you know?
Not you having good ideas. Just kidding. You always have good ideas, but okay, I'll do that. I love dun dun dun. All right. So if you're a trucker and you'd like to invite me to sit in your truck and listen as you vent about your frustrations in the industry, I am available. Okay, I'm here. That is something that sounds weirdly fun to me. So yeah, I'm here to listen. Listening for me to truckers' concerns helps me do my job better, because someone's got to be working these things out, right?
Yeah.
Whew,
okay. Well, yeah, I know you're out of batteries. Let's just recap real quick. So I'm gonna get all that information from you, and I'm gonna put it in the description for them.
Okay.
The basic process, right? The website and all that.
Okay. That sounds great.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you are listening.
Yeah, I hope they are by now still.
Louis has a foot fetish, and
I do?
He's looking for a lucky listener to stick their foot in his mouth.
What?
Just kidding. Please cut this part out.
Okay, no, I will not cut it out. But, I think I get the message. She has to go now, guys. But so there's no need for me to ask if there's anything else you want to add. So where can they reach you?
You can reach me. Good question. Add me on Instagram, LinkedIn, MySpace, Facebook. You know, there's not too many Claires who spell their name without an I. I know that's surprising, but it's true. Clare Bachman. Additionally, you can email me, CBACHMAN @CALSTART.org. But
Cool.
No spam, please. No nudies.
No inappropriateness.
Yeah, you can reach me there. Also, I invite anyone listening to a June 8th Fontana ride and drive event where you will be able to get behind the wheel of a zero emission truck and decide for yourself whether they, you know, tickle your fancy or not. That's important.
Great.
And maybe Louis will be there.
Maybe.
I'll invite him at least.
Yeah. All right.
Woo. Well, we're going to go to the fair now.
Yeah, we're gone. Okay. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next episode
Thank
of
you
the
all.
Containeroz podcast.
Have an amazing day.
Bye. Peace.